Welcome to Impact Farming, where we introduce you to the people and ideas that will have a massive impact on your farming operation. Brought to you by Farm Marketer. Sit down, start the engine, and let's roll with today's show.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Impact Farming Show. Today we have an amazing guest with us. We have Elaine Froese, who is a professional speaker. She's an author and she is a coach that helps farm families through difficult things such as succession planning, business, and the one we absolutely love so much, communication. Welcome.
Thank you.
I am so happy to have you back on the show again. You're just such a wealth of information and such a great support for farmers and farm families. Today I am excited that we're going to be speaking about culture. Culture beats strategy. So why don't we dive right in?
Okay.
Dive right in. What is culture?
So culture beats strategy is a term that Peter Drucker once coined, who is a management guru from the US. And culture is actually the invisible glue that holds a business or a family team together.
Okay.
And agriculture is a culture.
Yes.
And in Farming's In-Law Factor, the first chapter I wrote is called The Culture of Agriculture. So when we say culture beats strategy, it's talking about a quote that I'd like to refer to, and I'll just read it here from Niffler Marchand. It says, "Culture is the set of habits that allows a group of people to operate by assumption rather than negotiation." So it's something that you know that this is the way we do things around here, so you don't even have to ask the question. For instance, on our farm, we're a certified seed business. We have a high value and a culture around honesty.
Okay.
So if someone asks us to fudge something or take a bribe, say from a foreign country, which has happened, with exporting seed or something, no, that's not going to happen. You don't even have to ask the question because the culture is such as, no, that's not how we operate around here.
Okay, that's fantastic. And you have a 3-part framework for your culture.
Right.
Can you dive into that?
Right. So as I was doing the research on this the first time that I presented it, it's just 3 easy words, Tracy. So the first one is how the culture, the invisible glue that keeps your business team rolling and energetic and productive, is based on what do you believe,
okay,
how do you behave towards each other, and how do you make decisions. So you just have to remember the words believe, behave, and decide. And that's the culture of your business.
Okay. Believe, behave, decide. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's start with number 1. What does believe mean?
So believe, from my perspective, would be your cherished values or what in the common language now people call your core beliefs.
Okay.
So I have a tool called the Values Cloud, and just basically this is it here in a colorful set of words. But I also have this as a value style indicator. So if I was to ask you, what are your top 5 values? What would you pop off the top of your head?
Okay.
Huh. Well, you can use this to, So I already mentioned honesty. So honesty's right here. So and other people would say harmony. And for me, one of my top 5 values would be challenge. So I'm out speaking, coaching, and writing, and doing things to help empower farm families. And where's the rest of my farm team? They're here on my farm. So they have a higher value towards teamwork. So they're not going out and being independent. And having that challenge. They're staying home to work as a team. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would be one example. Another example would be intimacy, which is also one of my core values. So that's a need to love and be loved. Okay. Whereas you might have a farm family situation where this guy has no feelings, like he doesn't care about us in relationship. All he cares about is the farm. So are you starting to get it?
Yes.
So if you have values that are really not aligned, then you're going to have a lot of tension, right? So if the founder really values wealth, but the successor values pleasure and fun more than wealth, then you're also going to have another disconnect about how many hours is a reasonable expectation to work in this business. Oh. So you see, knowing what you believe to be true is very important with how the glue sticks the company together.
You know what? That just light bulbs are going off. That is absolutely amazing. And that would probably be a generation thing as well, right? Because different generations have been taught different from prior generations, and we change, we evolve, how hard people want to work.
And what challenges they want to take on.
What challenges.
Yeah. So
Wow.
if family harmony is a high value to you, which is typically the case for founding women,
Okay.
the women who are business owners, then they want to work towards having family meetings and having better communication. But if the founder is a workaholic and puts a higher value on work and a higher value on wealth than he does on leisure or having fun,
Yeah.
then you're just going to have those clashes will keep coming, and your even your value around communication. If you value understanding other people and being able to put yourself in their perspective, you'll be a better communicator. But if you don't really care what other people think, then you're just going to do it, and it's going to be dad's way in the highway.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
This right here, wow.
So that's important to understand.
Wow. We can do about 5 episodes about just this.
Well, and again, it doesn't have to be complicated. So all you have to do is actually just get out your Post-it notes, and you email me at farmfamilycoach.com and just ask for the values cloud. I'll whip it over to your viewers, and then you just get people. So you can give one person one color, another person another color, and ask them to write out in bold letters their 5. And then line them up on a flip chart or on a big piece of paper or on your kitchen wall or on the table. I don't care. But just figure out which ones are the same and which ones are different. And my saying always is, different is not wrong.
Okay.
It's just different. So we have different values. People are different, and they come to the table with different values.
Oh, wow. I just want to go on this one because wow.
Okay. So that's the first part, is what you believe.
Okay.
What you believe to be true. And that will also how you talk to yourself too, right? Like if I believe that intimacy is one of my core values, then I'm going to work hard to have friendships. I'm going to work hard to value relationship, and I'm going to say it's more important to attack the problem rather than the person, because I don't want to offend you as a person.
Yeah.
I value you and your relationship to me, so I'm not going to attack you. I'm going to say, Tracy, we got an issue here. We need to talk about the issue.
Okay.
Without attacking the person.
So, do you mind me diving in a little bit on
go
this?
ahead.
It's just, I love this stuff, and it's really kind of piquing my interest. We often, I don't know if that's true, how they say, especially in relationships, you attract the opposite. Mm-hmm. So, if you attract the opposite, that person, am I going to guess, would naturally probably have different. Would that be?
Some different and some the same.
Okay.
So in our own family, I've done personal style indicators on our team. So my husband is very task oriented.
Okay.
So he wants to get work done. He's very focused and disciplined and timely. My son is very people oriented.
Okay.
Which means he's more concerned about people relationships than necessarily getting the tasks done in as timely a fashion. But that actually makes them a great team.
Yes.
Because yes, they are opposite or they are different, but those two skill sets together make them a really strong team. And then you add the daughter-in-law, who's very high for cognitive ability or detail, and she's fantastic with office administration because she cares that it's done right.
Wow.
And then you have me, which is not so big for detail, so I'm over here on this side doing the influence stuff and the outer work, because my style is called influential. Okay. So I'm wired differently than the other three.
Which is neat. You could see where conflict could come, because if you're different and if one's wanting to do the task and one's wanting to do the people, there could be conflict and difference there. But also, if you know that, the strength.
Well, right, and then you also are willing to play to the person's strength, right?
Yeah.
So what bothers me in Farm Families, Tracy, when we talk about culture and strategy and the culture of agriculture, is that when I see so many families losing so much good energy with fighting and conflict when their values aren't aligned. Mm-hmm. And so when you can get them to shine a flashlight on what is truly important to all of you.
Okay.
So those are called common interests. So common interest in conflict and communication is, what is it that we all want here? We all want a profitable farm, mm-hmm. and we all want to enjoy what we do and have purpose and meaning, and we all want to have a strong family.
Okay.
So if those are things you all want, then why are you disconnected?
Okay. Interesting. So everybody would take and put their top 5 up. You'd find the common ones, and then is that how you would pick your farms? Is that right, or am I wrong on
mostly that? Mostly what you're trying to do is find out what is meaningful, what drives the other people in terms of what's most important to them. It's just more self-awareness around how people are not all the same, and I think. He's always just like his dad, or she's just like her mom, or whatever. Well, not necessarily, and don't assume that that's important, because it can change. Like, people get married, and then of course then they have children, and then they want to do things that are more family oriented. So that's going to impact how much time they want to spend working on the business, or if the people know this is the business time, the farm has to have job 1 right now during seeding, or during harvest, or during whatever the calving season, whatever the intense times are, knowing that we value doing the work well and the work well right at this time, but then there'll be a time later on for us to get more of what we need at another time. But we're not going to let. My main concern is that the farm does not become a monster, in that everybody's serving the farm, but the farm is not serving the family.
Okay. And that is an important part.
Well, so the question is, do you serve your business, or does the business serve the family?
Ooh. Say it again.
Do you serve the business, or does the business serve the family?
Do you serve the business, or does the business serve the family? Huh. And I'm thinking of our own farming operation. I'm thinking of others' farming operation, and I'm thinking personally of my business. Yeah, that's a good question to ask. Okay, so that is believe.
That's the first part of culture.
Okay, excellent. Now let's go to number 2, which is behave, right?
So behave is, again, the behavior that you accept or that you don't accept. So I've written a lot about profanity doesn't pay. I have some young farmers who are highly frustrated. Elaine, every day my dad comes up to me and, toxic, profane words to him before they even get started working. And so I looked at this young farmer and I said, why are you still there?
Oh.
And he thought, this is not normal. I go, this is not healthy.
Yeah.
And so that's the culture. That's what you, we have a Canadian culture, you have Latino culture, you have American culture. When you look at the culture of agriculture and what you deem to be normal, I always tell people normal is a setting on my dishwasher.
Isn't it?
Well, you look.
It is, yes.
Yeah, normal is I press it every morning or whenever I do dishes. Anyway, so how you behave towards each other is always a choice. And one of my phrases that pays is, you get the behavior that you accept. So again, in the culture of the farm, do you always put your tools back where you found them? And I've seen a lot of family feuding over the fact that he's irresponsible or she's irresponsible, they don't put things away, and that is highly irritating to the people who find that that's an important habit to have, right? Yeah. So do you practice safe habits, right? How do you behave towards machinery even?
Okay.
And yesterday I heard the story again, well, we hired this guy, but he was just really hard on stuff.
Okay.
Well, that's part of his culture where he grew up, where that was acceptable behavior, right? So I can, whatever you want to talk about. So it's the skills that you look at and the habits that, yes, that's okay. We can do things that way around here, or no, we don't.
Okay.
How high you cut your grass. How high your
That's a big one for people. Yes. Some people like it just this way and that direction.
Right. And whether or not your garden goes in rows from, east to west, north to south, I don't know. Like, there's just all of the behavior, which to you don't even. So getting back to my original definition that came from Merchant is it's the assumptions you're making because you don't even have to ask, right? This is just the way we do it. This is how we behave. But when I I call myself a pigeon on the balcony, Tracy, as a coach, when I come into a family dynamic and I look at them and I say, do you always treat each other like this? And they go, yes. And I say, well, it's very disrespectful. It's very ungracious. It's not helping your communication. And when we want to be better communicators, we need to behave well. We need to listen.
Yeah.
We need to not interrupt. We need to look each other in the eye, which you and I can do very easily. But Tracy, there's people that can't even look each other in the eye.
Oh, wow.
So all of these good communication habits are choices that you make in how you behave.
That's funny. And we don't think about how we operate, right?
Well,
that's the way we grew up. That's the way we do it. This is the way we behave.
And for daughter-in-laws...
I was just going to say, is that where that daughter-in-law thing...
Well, because they come from a different family of origin, right? So
Yeah.
a daughter-in-law will say, Elaine, in my family, we always talk things out. I have never been in a family before that doesn't talk.
Yeah.
And she may have also experienced the supper table where things of the day were chewed through, dealt with, and then they're good to go for the next day.
Yeah.
But now she's in a family that just keeps...
Just bottle it up, tuck it away,
and pretend it didn't happen. And then again, you gotta...
Till somebody explodes, right?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Right.
Okay.
So so what I think is fun, Tracy, is to ask why. Why are you doing it this way? Or what are you not telling me because I need to know this? And so the power of asking really good questions, particularly on why people are behaving. For instance, I used the example of my father-in-law, who one time walked away from me with his back to me and kept talking. And I said, stop, turn around. And he turned around and he said, what's wrong? I said, don't you ever talk to me while you're walking away from me. I need to see the whites of your eyeballs. I respectfully ask you to face me when you're speaking to me. He said, okay. And then it never happened again.
You're so right. Sometimes, yeah, I've had that too where I like to look people in the eye when I'm speaking, but you're right. Sometimes that's not comfortable for people and they don't look me in the eye, and then that's different for me too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can imagine how much fun it is marrying into a family where your style of communication is totally
Yes.
at opposite ends of your spouse and their family.
Yes. Interesting. I love this stuff. This is good. Okay, so we have believe, we have behave, and decide is our third one.
So decision making
Okay.
is part of how I'm wired as a home economist, Tracy. So home economists all over the world have been taught that you identify the problem, you research different solutions, you pick the best solution, you act on it, action is important, and then you evaluate whether or not that was a good decision or not. So making a decision has an actual process.
Okay.
A lot of people say, well, I don't know, we just kind of let stuff happen, and not to make a decision is a decision, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like the decision of omission rather than the decision of commission, whatever. So the Chinese have another saying, which is talk does not cook rice. So we can have all this lovely conversation about what we want to see happen in the farm and happen in the business and happen in the family, but ultimately you have to act. And so my curiosity with the culture is how do you make decisions on your farm? And a lot of people say, oh, Elaine, we kind of go to the shop or we have coffee on Monday morning and we kind of make a plan for what's going to happen for the whole week. So those are operational decisions. But when I say culture beats strategy, I'm also wanting to know about what's the big picture? What's the strategic plan for your business? Where do you want the business to grow and go over time? And if you don't pay attention to that, all of these little habits and little decisions that you make operationally are going to impact whether or not you are growing. And so it's helpful to me as a coach to say, is this decision making for the operation, or is this decision making for strategy for the big picture of the farm? It also helps young people because they get really good at producing crops or having cattle or doing livestock or whatever they're doing, but when do they actually sit down and say, is this the life I've always wanted? Right?
Yeah, and with farming or any business, it's so easy to get caught up in the doing.
Right.
Every day. I don't know if there's a person out there that farms or does not farm that can say, oh, I don't have enough to do today.
Right.
Everybody's so busy doing the day-to-day that we don't think of that strategy too, right?
Right.
And then a year goes by, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years,
And you wake up. Yeah.
Then you wake up. Is that where the midlife crisis comes from?
No, I think unfortunately a lot of change management in farms happens when there is some kind of accident or health incident, or a brother partner shows up and says, I'm done, I'm going to be bought out, and you didn't have the time to plan for that because you didn't anticipate that was coming. Again, if culture is the glue that holds your corporate structure and your business together, then you also probably need to have a culture that is focused on focusing and executing. And that's a great way to make decisions, is that you focus on a certain problem and then you execute. And one of the ways to do that, of course, is by having regular family meetings and business meetings, and having a way to share documents through Google Docs or Dropbox files or something, or having someone who likes detail, keeping track of that, so that you're tracking. Because another saying is, you can't change what you can't measure. So if you can measure where you are now and where you want to go, that's a great thing. And that's why getting your taxes done is quite exciting, because your accountant can tell you, well, this is the benchmarks and this is how you compare it to how you've done for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
But again, it's decision making. So people will say, well, Elaine, it's always he gets the final decision. And that's the other thing I'd like to speak to Tracy is, what is your style of decision making? Is it collaborative? Because to me, that's the strongest style, is that everybody on the farm team has a voice and we make decisions collaboratively. And yes, you may have, your specialty may be the cattle or the marketing, another person's specialty may be the grain and the crop growing, whatever. And everybody is respected in their own enterprise, but then everybody also gets a chance to see how they want to go forward together as a team.
Okay, that's good stuff. So you made this statement that culture beats strategy.
Right, and so again, I'll just refer back to my notes here from Nilafar. He says the best strategic idea means nothing if it's in isolation. If the strategy conflicts with how the people believe, behave, and decide. So if your strategy, we're going to grow this amazing, great, profitable farm, sounds great on paper, or you might have paid a lot of money to get a plan.
Yeah.
But if you're butting heads back at the farm and you don't respect each other, you don't give each other value, you attack the person rather than attacking the problem. If you're not behaving well, if you don't have similar, connected, aligned belief systems, and if you're not making collaborative decisions, it means nothing. And so he also says that conversely, a culturally robust team can turn a strategy into a winner, because the how matters in how we get performance. So it's, how are you showing up at your farm? How are you behaving with each other? And how are you making decisions? And I always tell my families when I'm speaking, I want your farm to be a rock and roll farm. I want it to have such an amazing culture that people love to work here. They're respected, they're appreciated, their jobs are totally aligned to their skill set and their passion. And I tell people that's the kind of farm I live on. And that's where you're sitting right now. And that's what makes me really happy, is that everybody goes out the door, knows what they need to do, and we're all working to the same end, which is to have a really, really good farm.
Well, and I'm just going to go on a little bit of a
rabbit trail.
A rabbit trail here, but if you think of it in business world, let's say a person goes to work, and you go to work and you don't necessarily like what you do, you can leave. I mean, you can leave a farm family too, but it's different. When you're part of the farm and that's generally where you like to be, you cannot leave, right?
Well, I always say, why are you still here? I give people permission to leave when things don't work out. But what I'd like them to do, based on the conversation you and I have just had, is to actually analyze and reflect on what's working, what's good about our culture on this farm, and what do we need to shift.
That's kind of where I was going. More so on the farm than anywhere else, it would be so important to work on the culture, because you're family and you're stuck with each other, so to speak. So why not make it a place that you really want to be and not feel like you're stuck?
Unfortunately, though, Tracy, some people feel that you cannot change. And I'm not that person.
Isn't that my next question? Can you change? Can people change? I'm curious on your thoughts on that one.
Yes, I'm wired for positivity and lifelong learning and winning other people over. So I, from my heart of hearts, do believe that people can change. For instance, my father-in-law, he had that bad habit of walking away and talking. Only took one conversation to change that habit. It made it a lot better. And change takes sometimes time and baby steps. But it also takes evaluation and awareness. So
I was going to say awareness.
If I don't know that I have a habit that's sucking energy out of the culture of our farm, if I don't know that until someone brings it to light, then I just don't know it until I know it.
Right. Okay. So on that note, if we can change, and let's say people are watching this episode and they go, you know what? Yeah, we could really work on the culture of our farming operation. How does somebody go about creating or changing? Because I guess even if you don't have a deliberate culture, you still have a culture. Might not be a good one. So how would we go about changing the culture on our farm?
Well, people always say that, those little mobiles that we used to have with Fisher-Price toys that hung over baby cribs, if you'd cut one person off, the mobile has to find a new kind of balance. And I think that happens in families too. So if I show up, come home from a seminar, or write a book, or watch this interview, and I decide I'm just going to pay more attention to how people are reacting with each other, or do the values quiz and find out what's really important to me, then I'm going to start asking different questions. So my belief, Tracy, is that if one person becomes more self-aware about the kind of culture they want to have on their farm, and they start listening more and asking better questions and reflecting, then I think things will shift. And again, coming from curiosity, and I have a whole 19-piece toolbox on my website called the Farm Family Toolkit. They could also start there just by finding out what their communication style is. I'm very people-oriented, like my son. Whereas I'm pretty sure I'm an ideas person. You have all these ideas for what you want to do with impact farming, right?
Probably. You know me well already.
and then my husband would be much more action oriented, much more concise. So just even knowing what our different communication styles would be helpful.
Okay, excellent. So we covered a lot. Believe, behave, decide, why culture beats strategy, how to change culture. Did you have any other words of wisdom, thoughts you want to leave?
I just would like the viewers to understand that you need to decide what's important to you, because if you are not getting what you need, I often tell my audiences, I think, I feel, I need, I want. So what are you thinking now that you've heard this interview? I think there's one or two areas that we can improve our culture on our farm, and another one would be not to make assumptions. Ask. Even the culture around sleep. Did you have a good sleep last night? Well, no, baby was up a couple of times, or I had indigestion or whatever, and just being aware of how the other person is operating that particular day.
Whew, that's a big one.
Right, will help you not make assumptions and jump into maybe some of those default patterns that haven't been helping you in the past. So I think, I feel, I need, I want says, I think it's time that we sat down and found out if we're all working towards the same vision for this farm. I feel overwhelmed. I want to know if I'm financially secure, and I need to have certainty. So could we please do this by this date at this time? And again, you're just, very, very gradually pulling all the pieces of information together to get what you want.
That is excellent. Okay. On that note, if people want to find out more about what you spoke about, any tools that you have, where can they find you?
So the whole thing on Culture Beat Strategy has been put into a webinar with Farm Management Canada, and it's on my website, so they can go to farmfamilycoach.com.
Okay.
And earlier we mentioned the Farm Family Toolkit.
Okay.
And if they would like these values words that we held up before, just send me an email on my contact page and say, Elaine, send me the values cloud. Be happy to send that to you. And if you want to dive deeper for a few dollars, probably around $40 per person, You can also do a value style indicator online, which I do through CRG Leader Group, and find out what your 7 core values are. Might be a good exercise in awareness building for your team.
I love all this stuff. I could talk to you for hours and hours about this, but you know what? I think that is such amazing information you shared. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Tracy.
You've been listening to Impact Farming. For more great episodes and articles designed to help you manage and grow your farming operation, head on over to farmmarketer.com. Don't forget to sign up while you're there. We will see you on the next episode.